So it seemed crazy at the beginning, but we now already have a snowboarding website that has all the bits and pieces that we normally expect on a site and that we didn't know maybe how to do before we saw this video. So I think it's pretty cool to, and maybe important to, congratulate yourself on how far we've actually gotten. The last part is actually the easiest one. It's just doing the footer, and the footer, all it is let's go to our footer here. All this has these 4 columns, so we're going to use CSS Grid with 4 columns and basically put in that text. It actually consists of 2 parts though, so we have this big part, this navigation thing, and then we have this copyright thing, which we'll do separately. So these are the 2 elements of our footer. And also here I'm going to use a bit of copy and pasting from the text, so you don't have to type over all the text of the footer because it's boring. So remember, we were working in our main element. We have our header above, our main element, and then after that we're going to write our footer. And the first thing that we need to do is center everything inside of our footer. Now we want to make a little container here, so I'm going to call that div footer dash container, and that will contain these 4 columns for us. So that's what I want to do. And again, I don't want to write them here, so in a minute I will write div footer column. So this is our the first column, and then has that all the links, and then the second one, third one. But again, I'm just going to copy that here. So everything inside that footer container I'm going to copy all the way up till here. Not this div, so this div closes off this footer container. So inside of that container we're going to copy. Again, make sure that you don't copy too much. So these ones all have to sort of close this other element, right? So this one's a column, this one's a column, this one's a column, and this one's a column, right? And normally the alignment using Prettier should show you that this is actually the way to go. Okay, so to style this, we're going to style the footer. Again, it's black, so the footer background is black. The color is not white, but this light gray. Beautiful. As you can see, we still have some work to do here. I don't really see why this footer thing doesn't actually work. Oh, maybe because I should save here. Sorry. So we have our footer here. We're going to give that footer a bit of padding as well. And before I showed you how you can use 2 values, you can also use 4 values here. And those 4 values actually refer to the orientation of the clock, by which I mean the first value is at the top, then going clockwise, the next value is going to the right, then down at 6 o'clock we have the bottom, and then at 9 o'clock, so we have our left orientation. So again, this is top, left, top, right, sorry, right, down, left, again, top, right, bottom, left, right. So just think of the arms of the clock and see which direction that they follow. You can also write them separately, so you can write padding top, padding left, padding bottom, if you want. Okay, and then the reason why I split this up into footer and footer container is because my footer container also does this trick of setting the maximum width and the margin of 0 auto. So this, you see, is repeated a lot, and that's basically what these containers do. It's basically saying, okay, this whole thing has to be black, but this container also only has that size. Now I'll show you. If I would do it here, then what you see is that the black only runs until that part, right? That's not what we want. So that's why it's 2 elements. One that provides the black for the whole thing, and the second one that centers everything of the content inside. And again, the main thing here is to use display grid and use grid template columns like we did before. And here say, okay, we have 4 columns, they're all using fractional space, so they all use all the free space that you have. And as you can see here, the text sort of runs all the way to the next thing. So to avoid that, we are going to use grid gap of 20 pixels. So that gives some room between each of these elements. And normally in here we can see it. So if you go over that element, you can see that you have this gap between these elements, which makes them look a bit nicer. And now it's just more styling. So we have our H2, color is white, text transform uppercase, we have a normal font. We want a margin of 0 and then a margin bottom of 0.5 rems. So these are our links. And then we use paragraphs for the other elements in the footer. Here we basically want to copy and paste this one. Good. We're done, except that we have this copyright here, and this just appears below the other one. So here we have to look a bit careful. So we have our footer here, we have our footer container, and then after our footer container we're going to write our copyright. So we're going to write div copyright, and then again I'm just going to maybe just copy this whole copyright thing, and here we're going to write copyright. Again, because it's part of our footer and we want it to align, we're going to use max width and margin here, and then set the font size to 11 pixels, and that should be enough. So we should save this thing, and now we have our nice copyright here. Maybe after our footer container we also want to use a little bit of margin at the bottom again, so not everything sort of looks squished together. So yeah, so we have some nice margin here, and I think that's it. So again, if you followed along all the way until the end, congratulations, because you just made your first real website with all the bells and whistles that you need for a real website. This is really impressive. We're going to stop here, but again, congratulations, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.